have to eat sort of imaginary pancakes, but you can also connect with each other in the chat. There is a virtual link for the coffee hour, so please feel free to find that and check in with each other. We want to welcome any families with children. You're invited to connect with the RE committee after the service to get more information about our programs. And here are the announcements for the morning. I've got quite a few. The People's Joy Parade is right around the corner, and we would love you to come join us in Fountain Park on Saturday, May 3rd at 1:11 in the, it says 1:11 p.m. Okay. The parade marches, and there's a registration that you can do, and I'm sure you can find that in the written announcements. On April 17th, even sooner than that, here at church, we will have the Maudie Thursday service, which will include a roll call of people who passed away in the last year. If you would like to include a loved one of yours in this tradition, you can send photos and information about your loved one to Sunday services at First UU. Again, check the announcements so you have that exact email. We are also looking for volunteers to assist Mo in the booth. Mo does an amazing job, but he needs a little help. And if you're interested in helping out, email him. Your support is greatly appreciated. I'm sure you could actually talk to him in person also. And another ask from the church, we're looking for storytellers for the stories on Sunday mornings. So if you're interested, please contact Steve Wilkie, and he will set you up with that. And then finally, I'm going to say it one more time, pancakes. Is that resonating with anyone who doesn't like pancakes? Yeah. Downstairs after the service, and it is a benefit for the RE programs. Good morning again. I'm still Roz Cook, and it's wonderful to see everyone. Welcome to this religious community where we affirm the worth and dignity of all who enter. We gather in community, understanding we are all sacred beings, diverse in culture, experience, identity, and theology. Our values invite us to a shared journey of truth and meaning-making. Together, we foster a spirit of gratitude and generosity so that all may feel welcome and all may thrive. We are glad you're here with us this morning, whether in person or online. Please enjoy the prelude, number 2 of 3 meditations by Eric Thyman, performed by Alan Hoffman on the organ.
Good morning. I'm the Reverend Sabrina Trupia, and my pronouns are they, them. I serve this congregation as sabbatical minister until the end of this month. We begin today with a call to worship by Carl Seberg. Let there be joy in our coming together this morning. Let there be truth heard in the words we speak and the songs we sing. Let there be help and healing for our disharmony and despair. Let there be silence for the voice within us and beyond us. Let there be joy in our coming together. Let us worship together. Please rise in body or spirit and join us for our hymn of the month, number 361, Enter, Rejoice, and Come In.
Song
We light our chalice this morning with these words by Danusia Lamoris from her poem, Small Kindnesses. I've been thinking about the way when you walk down a crowded aisle, people pull in their legs to let you by. Or how strangers still say, "Bless you," when someone sneezes, a leftover from the bubonic plague. Don't die, we are saying. And sometimes, when you spill lemons from your grocery bag, someone else will help you pick them up. Mostly, we don't want to harm each other. We want to be handed our cup of coffee hot and to say thank you to the person handing it, to smile at them and for them to smile back, for the waitress to call us honey when she sets down the bowl of clam chowder, and for the driver in the red pickup truck to let us pass. We have so little of each other now, so far from tribe and fire, only these brief moments of exchange. What if they are the true dwelling of the holy, these fleeting temples we make together when we say, "Here, have my seat. Go ahead, you first. I like your hat."
Well, during Razzmatazz Sunday, I talked about DeBose Hayward, and I'll tell you a little bit more about him. If there are children who'd like to come up front for the story for all ages, please come on up. Maybe he'll play the little boombox thing. I mean, that's fine, or you can be down here, any of those. But I talked about DeBose Hayward on Razzmatazz Sunday. He wrote the book on which the folk opera Porgy and Bess was written. All right, you guys ready? Okay. I mentioned the book I'm about to share with you. Come on over. Here we go. Ooh, we got kind of crowd today. I'm real excited. I haven't had this many people listen to my stories since I taught at Griffith Elementary School. I'd have a whole bunch of kids for the story time, and I got a bunch of kids for story time here. Okay. The book that I'm reading, The Country Bunny and the Little Gold Shoes, gentlemen, thank you. Okay, the story I'm reading was written in the 1930s. That was even before I was born. Yeah, okay. And so there are some things in here that you may wonder about, the way the story is written, but it challenged the ideas that worth is based on color or gender or stature or traditional roles. I mean, I'm sure some of you recall a time when someone told you that you couldn't do something not because you weren't capable of doing it, but because you didn't fit into the correct category of doing things. So, The Country Bunny and the Little Gold Shoes by DeBose Hayward with pictures by Marjorie Flack. We hear of the Easter Bunny who comes each Easter day before sunrise to bring eggs for boys and girls. So we think that there's only one, but that's not so. There are really 5 Easter bunnies. And they must be the 5 kindest and swiftest and wisest bunnies in the world, because between sunset on Easter Eve and dawn on Easter morning, they do more work than most rabbits do in a whole year. When one of the Easter bunnies grows old and can no longer run fast, the old, wise, and kind grandfather bunny, who lives at the Palace of Easter Eggs, calls the bunnies together from the whole world to select the very best one to take its place. Now, often a mother bunny will say to her child, "Now, if you learn to be wise and kind and swift, someday you may grow up to be one of the Easter bunnies." And one day, a little country bunny girl with brown skin and a little cotton ball of a tail said, "Someday I shall grow up to be an Easter bunny. You wait and see." And then all the big white bunnies who lived in fine houses and the jackrabbits with long legs who could run so fast, they laughed at little Cottontail and told her to go back to the country and eat a carrot. But she said, "Wait and see." The little girl Cottontail grew up to be a young lady Cottontail, and by she had a husband. And then one day, much to her surprise, there were 21 Cottontail babies to take care of. Then the big white rabbits and the jacks with long legs laughed, and they said, "What did we tell you? Only a country rabbit would go and have all those babies. Now take care of them and leave Easter eggs to great big men bunnies like us." And they went away liking themselves very much. Cottontail stopped thinking about hopping over the world with lovely eggs for little boys and girls, and she took care of her babies. And one day, when her children stopped being babies and were little girl and boy bunnies, she called them to her and said, "Now, we're going to have some fun." Then to two of them, she gave little brooms and showed them how to sweep out the cottage. And two, yes, I said it's from the 30s. Okay. And two, she called them, I lost track of where it was. Taught them how to sweep the cottage, and two she taught how to make beds, and two more went with her to the kitchen, and in no time at all, they had found out how to cook a good dinner, and with these went the two little dishwashers, and they made the glasses shine like crystal. Two had little wash tubs full of soap suds, and they washed all the linen, and two did the sewing and mending. Two who had sweet voices were taught to sing, and two more to dance, and these amused all the others while they worked, so that they were gay and happy. Two others were soon digging in the garden. To two she gave paints and crayons so they could make pretty pictures for the walls. And when Mother Cottontail had given out all of the tasks, she looked around, and there was only one little bunny left, and he was sad and lonely. Then Mother Cottontail said to him, "You are the most polite of all my children, so I shall make you keeper of my chair. And whenever I come to dinner, you shall seat me politely at the table." I know. One day, you got to do stuff like that if you've got 21 kids, okay? They got to be organized. One day, she heard a great talk among the rabbits. One of the 5 Easter bunnies had grown too slow, and they were going to the Palace of Easter Eggs to see old grandfather pick out a new one to take his place. So she called her little Cottontails, and they all set off to the palace to see the fun, but their mother was sad because she thought that now she was nothing but an old mother bunny and could only look on, and that a big handsome white rabbit or long-legged jack would be chosen. When they came to the Palace of Easter Eggs, there were bunnies everywhere on the great lawn. The ones that hoped to be the Easter bunny stood together, and all the others looked at them and clapped their paws. Then the big front door opened, and the old, wise, and kind grandfather came hopping slowly out, and he told the biggest and those with the longest legs to show what they could do. They jumped and ran and showed their pretty white fur, and they were all very fast and very clever. But still he did not pick one, and he said to them, "Well, you're pretty, and you're fast, but you have not shown me that you are either kind or wise." Then his kind old eyes looked everywhere, and at last they rested on little Cottontail Mother, where she stood with her children around her. And he called her to come right up to the palace steps. So she took her 21 children and went up and stood before him, and then he spoke. His voice was so kind, she wasn't frightened at all. And he said, "What a large family you have, my dear. I suppose they take all of your time." But she said, "Well, when they were babies, that was so, but now they're so well trained, they do most of the work for me." "Ah," he said, smiling. "Well, you must be very wise to train so many children so well. But tell me, do they always look so happy? And do they always hold their ears up so prettily?" "Indeed they do," she answered. "We never have a tear or a cross word in our little country cottage, and if I do say it myself, they do carry their ears better than most bunnies." And then he said, patting the nearest bunny on the head, "You must be very kind indeed to have such a happy home. And it's too bad that you've had no time to run and grow swift, as I might then have made you my 5th Easter bunny." At that, Mother Cottontail started to laugh, and then she whispered to all her little bunnies, and every rabbit on the lawn looked to see what would happen, and the old grandfather leaned forward to watch. Suddenly, all of her 21 children raced away, and Cottontail dashed after them, and in no time at all, she had them all back again in front of the palace. And then the old, kind, and wise grandfather bunny said, "I see that you are swift also. It is too bad that you cannot go to carry my eggs, because you will have to stay at home to take care of your children." Mother Cottontail nodded her head to the little ones, and they all formed a line and bowed low to the grandfather. And then she stepped in front of them, and she said, "Well, they will take better care of the house than I." Then she called them up 2 by 2, and as she put her hands on the heads of each pair, she said, "These are my sweepers. They keep the cottage clean as your hand. These make the beds without a wrinkle. These cook my dinner. These wash the dishes. These tend the garden. These wash and dry all the clothes. These do the mending. These sing and dance to keep us merry while we work. These are learning to paint pretty pictures for our walls. And this littlest one of all, he always pulls out my chair for me when I come to sit at the table. So you see, I can leave them to take care of the house until I come home." Then the old, kind, wise grandfather said, "You have proved yourself not only wise and kind and swift, but you're also very clever. Come to the Palace of Easter Eggs tomorrow afternoon, for that is Easter Eve, and you shall be my 5th Easter bunny." Then the next evening, Cottontail knocked on the big front door and was admitted to the palace, and there she stood in her funny country clothes. But none of the other 4 Easter bunnies laughed, for they were wise and kind, and they knew better. They showed her all over the palace, from room to room, all piled high with eggs of gold and silver, the eggs that glittered like snow, chocolate eggs, marshmallow eggs, eggs for rich and poor children, for children who were sick and children who were well all over the world. Then, as soon as it was dark enough for the children to be asleep all over the world, the old, wise, kind grandfather gave the word, and 5 bunnies set to work as fast as they could. First one, then another would take up a large egg or a pretty little basket, and in a single hop would be out of the palace and away out of sight. And then in a moment, he'd be back again, and before you could say, "Jack Robinson," people did say that, he would have whisked away again. And before you could say, "Jack Robinson," they would be back. And slowly the night wore away, and the bunnies began to look tired as they kept running for more and more eggs. And in the palace, the glittering piles grew smaller and smaller. Poor little Cottontail was very tired, for this was the first time she had ever gone so far and so fast in her life. And she was beginning to hope that she would soon take the little basket that was set aside for her own children and go hopping home. Then old, wise, kind grandfather called her to him. When she went close, he saw that he was holding in his hand the loveliest egg she had ever seen. It glittered like a diamond. "Peek through and see what you shall see," he said. So she peeked through the little hole in one end and saw a beautiful scene with a sleigh and a lake with people skating on the ice. And she said, "Because you have such a loving heart for children, I'm going to give you the best, but the hardest trip of all. Far off, over 2 rivers and 3 mountains, there's a great mountain peak. And in a little cottage on that peak is a little boy who has been ill for a whole year and who has been so brave that never once has he cried or complained. The mountain is so high that there is ice on the top, and it will be hard to climb. But if you get there, you will give more happiness than any other Easter bunny." So Cottontail picked up the egg, and thank you, though, very gently, and went hopping away on her journey. She crossed the first river and then the second. She went over the first mountain and then another mountain and yet another until at last she reached the highest mountain of all. She was very tired. When at last she got to the bottom of the great peak, and her heart failed her when she saw how high it was and how slippery with ice and snow on top. But holding the egg very carefully, she started hopping up. At last she reached the ice and snow, and now she was almost to the top, and she could see the little cottage all covered with snow where the little boy was sleeping. But then a terrible thing happened. Her foot slipped, and down she came, downward she flew into snowdrifts. And then she left the ice and snow, and rolling and bouncing against the stones, she felt the air getting warmer. Down, down she went, and she crashed through a thicket of budding laurel, rolled across a pasture, and finally struck against the trunk of a great apple tree that was just getting ready to bloom for Easter. And there she lay, with the egg still safely clutched in her paw, but with a great pain in her leg. She tried to rise again because she saw a lovely pink light in the sky, and she knew that in a few minutes more it would be day, and the little boy would be sad if she did not get his egg to him. But the pain was so bad she fell down. Then she felt something touch her shoulder, and she looked up, and there, right before her, way off there in that distant land, was old, wise, kind grandfather Bunny. And he smiled at her and he said, "You're not only wise and kind and swift, but you are also the bravest of all the bunnies. And I shall make you my very own gold shoe Easter bunny." And he reached over, and she saw for the first time that he was holding a tiny pair of gold shoes. He bent down and put them on her feet. Suddenly, all the pain left her leg, and she stood up and picked up the precious egg. And then before she knew what was happening, she felt a sudden motion, and she found herself flying high in the air. Over the pasture she flew, over the laurel, over the stones, until at last, when she landed, she looked back, and she saw that in one single jump had carried her halfway up the mountain. And then she jumped once again, and there she was at the cottage door. Quickly, she squeezed through the tiny crack that had been left open just in case the bunny did come all that way. And in the hand of the beautiful sleeping boy, she placed the egg. Then, just as Easter morning sun rose over the edge of the world, she jumped quickly back to the palace, where she found her little basket for her own little bunnies, and went hopping back home to give them a happy Easter. Mother Cottontail found that the garden was tended, and sure enough, just as she had said, everything was in order. The floors were swept, and there were 2 lovely new pictures painted and hanging on the wall, and the dishes were washed and shown in the cupboard. The clothes were washed and mended and nicely hung away. And her 21 children were all sound asleep in their little beds. And the little house of Mother Cottontail can always be told now from the homes of all other bunnies, because in a special place on the wall, on a very special hook, hangs a pair of very tiny little gold shoes. And it's time for singing you guys back to your classes.
light of mine. If you look at the screen, Mo has the words up. This joy that I have. Greg's going to play it once, and then we're going to sing it 2 times through.
When we are present to each other's joys and concerns, we affirm each other's humanity. Being seen and accepted in moments of struggle and celebration is how we build community. Now is the time in our service when we connect with one another by sharing our sorrows and concerns. Our deep sympathies go to Sue Hertzberg, whose mother, Janet Pesci, passed peacefully away on April 1st in hospice with her family by her side at the age of 92. In lieu of flowers, the family is requesting donations to the League of Women Voters in her name. Okay. As always, I'm having trouble with the form, but I'm trying. Okay. Yeah, that's my concern. It's been my concern the whole time. So if somebody has the phone, like maybe Pam, I know that there were joys and concerns, but I don't remember what they were because I read them. Hey, Pam, I need your phone. Or this, if you know how to do it. Thank you. Oh, look at that. Is it me then? That's my concern now. Nope. Okay. Da, 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 da. Yes, I broke it. It's all my fault. From what I read about the concerns, there were some people not doing well. Some people's parent was in a hospital recovering from pneumonia, and there's a general sense of discomfort. And I hope that this one last time we can do it. There you go. There you go. She got it. I broke it and she fixed it, okay? Like, let it be known.
I apologize. It ran an update.
Oh, God. Okay. So somebody's mom's best friend had cancer and the other friend died. Somebody had worrying results from a medical test. Somebody's aunt died. Somebody's mom is in the hospital, as I referred to before. And somebody's reacting to stress strangely. We also pray for the health and safety of all those in the Western Carolinas who are suffering from the wildfires. And we offer gratitude for the firefighters that are helping. We hold these concerns with tenderness and compassion. May they be lighter because they are shared. As a community, we also share our joys and celebrations with one another. So congratulations to Sarah and Joe Francois, who just celebrated their 25th wedding anniversary. The year 2000 was a good year. Somebody's husband passed chemistry with an A, and in bracket it says finally. I approve of passing chemistry with an A. Family party for 2 birthdays today. Somebody's niece and daughter-in-law party. Happy birthday to a 10-year-old who's sharing his birthday with all of us today, but is probably in class. Spring flowers. Spend time playing with grandchildren. And a few plants for the abundance garden have come out already. And somebody says that the crash of the stock market and the ruin of my 401k heralds the demise of the Republican Party. That's one way to see it, but I feel for those people that have suffered economically. And anyways, we lift up these joys with gladness and celebration. May they be magnified because they're shared. So this prayer that I'm about to pray is adapted from one that Reverend Kristen Grassel Schmidt wrote, which was entitled With Hearts Broken. God of many names, divine love, eternal blessing, to this beautiful planet, on this hallowed time, and in the midst of this kindred company, we bring hearts broken. In such times as these, it can be hard to find where our gratitude, where our joy, where our serenity might have fled. And yet, nurturing these 3, gratitude, joy, and serenity, is the most powerful resistance we have against terror. So this morning, we choose to see the goodness in a world fraught also by evil. We refuse to allow anger and fear to barricade themselves within us, and we make time and space in our lives and in our hearts to count our blessings and give thanks. We give thanks for the joy of finding and abiding with this faith community, for kindnesses big and small when we least expect them, for the flowers in spring, for the dirt in the garden. O divine breath, teach us how to resist. Fill our hearts with a thirst for justice, a hunger for righteousness, and help us be those in, with, and through whom our world is transformed into the one hope we pray and dream for. In all of your holy names, these things we pray. Amen.
The First Unitarian Church of St. Louis strives to be a welcoming congregation, inspiring lives of loving kindness and integrity by nurturing spirituality, building community, and advancing justice. Your contributions support the mission and ministry of this congregation in the St. Louis area and beyond. So a special thank you to the choir for that beautiful music, and for everyone for your gifts of time, talent, and treasure. We thank you. So today, in lieu of a full reading, we have another song. So if you are watching on YouTube, unfortunately, it will be muted due to copyright realities, but it's easy to find in case you want to know what it sounds like. It's the words to the song that are important, so try to hear them. The title of the song is "Nothing You Can Take From Me Was Ever Worth Keeping."
What a time to be alive. Welcome to April, the month where we explore the practice of joy. Okay. It has been hard for me to think about joy. I found a poem called "Joy is Hard" by Reverend Joe Cherry, and I wanted to share it with you because maybe that can get us started, right? Joy is hard. Joy requires us to feel safe enough, to be open to vulnerability. To feel joy, you must be brave. Joy walks into a room after the space has been cleared of shame, cleared of doubt, cleared of self-recrimination. Joy is hard. Joy is hard, and joy is worth the hard work of preparation, preparing oneself and setting down all the defenses, all the should-haves and could-haves, all the should-not-haves and might-haves. Joy is worth the work. You are worth the work. You can start small. The simple pleasure of your favorite tea, the grand freedom of a full belly laugh. Invite joy to be your companion. Great poem, right? Great sentiment. And yet, at the beginning of this poem, it says, joy is hard. It requires us to feel safe enough. Does anybody feel safe enough? That made me mad. How can we feel safe when the world is on fire? How can joy be our companion when joy right now feels hidden? There is our life we have to live, the laundry to do, the garbage to take out. There are marches like yesterday. The news is ever more discouraging, and yet we have to go on living, right? Life itself feels like a struggle. How can we find joy in all of this? Where is it? This is a hard time to sermonize on joy. At the start, I wasn't getting anywhere, even after I read the poem, because when I think about joy, typically, where my mind goes first is me, my life, my burdens. Sometimes I get joy confused with hope or gratitude. I feel like those are secondary to the experience of joy. Joy is none of that. It's not happiness. And let me tell you a secret about sermonating, how it is for me anyway. Sometimes it's like fishing. You sit there quietly, listening to that still small voice, hoping it comes or it bites, if you want to prolong the metaphor or the analogy. And sometimes you think it's there, but it doesn't quite get you anywhere. And this is what happened to me when I was thinking about joy in an individualistic way. When I think of speaking about joy in as a personal pursuit, I get stuck after a few sentences. It feels like I want to tell you what these sentences are. Joy is a practice. We choose joy. Joy is something that can coexist with sadness. It doesn't mean happiness. Joy is something that transcends feelings. It's a state of mind, a cup of tea, an attitude, blah, 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 blah. And that's it, right? That's as far as it gets me. Okay, then, so I asked the small voice, what can we say about joy if we don't talk about it in the way it's usually talked about as a personal pursuit? How can we talk about joy beyond our personal practice? Or can we? And so finally, the still small voice bit and said, when there is no joy, there is no song. And for some reason that reminded me of the Hunger Games. Stay with me. Show of hands. The Hunger Games, are you familiar? Okay. Well, okay. For those of you who aren't or didn't pay attention or watched the movie and then didn't do anything about it, those of you who don't like Donald Sutherland, I'll summarize. This is a set of dystopian novels where the setting is a post-apocalyptic version of America called Panem, where every year there's 12 districts. The district send 2 children picked at random like a lottery to fight each other in an arena in what is called the Capitol, where the center of power is. And this fight is called the Hunger Games, and it's done to remember that a long time ago the districts rebelled and the Capitol won, and it's a way to keep control. It seems, well, when it first came out, it seemed kind of far-fetched that something like that would happen. And it gets closer and closer to reality. The inspiration was reality TV combined with the news and the story of the ship of Theseus and the Minotaur, Spartacus Rebellion, a mix of all these things. You may have guessed that I'm a fan of the series because Suzanne Collins, the author, has found a way to speak of heavy subjects simply to young adults, like what is a just war, or when is it right to wage war. And the way she goes about explaining these difficult philosophical concepts is by using simple stories where she shows that things are never cut and dried. And she uses literary references, poetry, philosophy, so many other good things. These books make me think, and I'm not even a young adult, probably not even adult. So if you know the story, you know that these books are about the fight to eliminate these Hunger Games, right? Like to set a new revolution so that this carnage of 24 kids every year stops. And it stops the terror. And if you know the story, you also know that songs are a subtext. They play an important role in these books. The one we heard as a reading was from one of the prequels of the Hunger Games. But here's the thing about the songs in the story and how they function. In the original trilogy, there is a song that is the cry for rebellion. But when we look at the two prequels, this very song is part of a bigger repertoire, part of a catalog, if you will. And so when we go back far enough, we know that there was a band that played songs of defiance, songs of resistance, and everybody was more or less okay. They weren't outlawed yet. The peacekeepers, which are the police, went to these concerts, so there was no censorship much. In the second prequel, these songs are becoming more and more rarefied. People don't know where they came from. There are no bands that play them publicly, but they're transmitted in the oral tradition. And then we get to the initial trilogy where there is just the one song. So you see, it decreases as the more the boot starts stomping the citizens. The more the citizens are terrorized and afraid, the less song there is. And why do I care about this? Because of joy? Well, there is a theme that I often look for in all the dystopian novels that I read. I don't read that many, but is there a vision, a hope for better days? And what does it look like? When it looks like the Matrix, it might look like that. It might look stark, but at least you are in control of your own body. In the Hunger Games, this hope for joy, the hope for better tomorrow, comes through song. And I don't know if this theme of song and how, it helps with the subversion is specifically a reflection on joy on the part of the author. I don't know. But to my view, the message I heard, no song, no joy, is reflected in these stories. And through these stories, we can learn something. It's not a negative message, it's the positive of this. By showing us how there is no joy with no song, it also tells us that joy is possible, that there can be a future where those songs are sung. The title of the sermon is from the hymn we just sang to send the children to their classes. This joy that I have, the world didn't give it to me. The world can't take it away. And so that's the theme. The things that are inside of us is the things that are truly ours, things that cannot be taken away. Nothing you can take away was ever worth keeping. That song lists the qualities that make people resilient: charm, humor, sass. But of course, it doesn't say you can't take my song, because it's a song, it would be too self-referential, but it's implied, right? The song is something freely given, which is mentioned in the song, and therefore you cannot take it away. You can just get it, hear it, sing it. Okay. Dystopian young adult novels like Hunger Games aren't for you, right? Like, if they aren't for you, then let's talk about something else, because it's not just in a novel that you can find these concepts of joy tied to songs. What about folk music in general? Like, that sounded pretty folky, but I'm talking about real folk music. Like, I'm talking Pete Seeger, the Almanac Singers, Woody Guthrie. Folk music, music for the people, by the people. Sometimes explicitly songs of protest, like If I Had a Hammer, for instance, what side are you on? But they can be more subtle and prettier, like Little Boxes. Stuff like that. But, one thing that came to me recently is about the song Alice's Restaurant by Arlo Guthrie. That's not even just a song, that's a whole 18-minute story with some verses sang. And the point of this whole song is what? Thanksgiving? Not littering? Going to jail? Not really. What the song is really about, we find out at the end of the narration, towards spoken verse 25, I believe. So Arlo is telling us to imagine what would happen if during the psychological evaluation people get to be sent to Vietnam, people started singing a verse of this song. And he says, well, when they are trying to see if you're fit to serve, and as he says, if you are moral enough to join the army, burn women, kids, houses, and villages. They have to figure out if you're stable first, and then they send you there. What would happen if I would sing the refrain? Just a second. And so he says, if just one person does it, sings the thing that we're going to sing in a minute, they may think he's really sick, and they won't take him. Hey. And if two people do it in harmony, in two-part harmony, they may think they're both gay, and so they won't take him. And if 3 people do it, 3 people, can you imagine? 3 people walking in, singing a bar of Alice's Restaurant, and walking out, they may think it's an organization. And can you imagine 50 people a day, I said 50 people a day, walking in, singing a bar of Alice's Restaurant, and walking out? And friends, they may think it's a movement. Hit it. If you want Alice's Restaurant, and anything you want, Alice's Restaurant. So that's what the song is about. Thank you. Thank you for playing along and for being a movement. That's what the song is about. It's about disrupting the draft movement to the collective action of people, doing something innocent like singing. And where's the joy there? The joy is singing in a joyful way. If you listen to this, whether it's the live one or the recorded one, it's a joyful moment. Singing together defiantly, the joy of creating together. That cannot be taken away. What'd you do today at church? Oh, we sang Alice's Restaurant. Joy is a form of resistance, and we must construct it. It doesn't come spontaneously, but it is achievable. So joy is something that can occur when we're in a community together, when we have a shared purpose, a shared dream of a better world, and this joy both transcends and incorporates the more personal joy of that initial point that we started out with. So if joy is a sacred pursuit, so if it transcends the moment, one could call it a sacred pursuit. As joy is a sacred form of resistance. Can we talk about a theology of joy? The very fact that I'm asking this question should tip you off that yes, I think we can. For one thing, joy in the Christian tradition is one of the fruits of the Spirit. How do I know this? Veggie Tales. But also I went to seminary, so I know that the origin of the fruit of the Spirit is from Paul's letter to the Galatians, which goes down a slippery slope, and has been misinterpreted and continues to be misinterpreted because it has that bit about salvation by faith alone, which I don't necessarily agree with, but yes, even Paul, you see, Christianity's greatest PR man, even he mentions joy. You'd think he was a serious type, but joy, love, joy. So that is kind of a theology of joy. You could construct that out of the Christian tradition, except so very few theologians do. Now, there is one theologian who does. His name is Miroslav Volf. He's a Bosnian student of another theologian that not right now escapes me, but a student of liberation theology. And he says, despite its presence as a fruit of the Spirit in Christianity, joy doesn't appear a lot. Peace, love, yes, you can construct a theology about peace and love and be very serious. And this, he says, makes a lot of theologians the theologians of grumpiness. I like that. Oh, by the way, he's a student of Jürgen Moltmann. That's who it was. Should write it down, right? And maybe a lot of theologians are grumpy because joy is often spoiled by false expectations. Perhaps the expectation that joy will be paired with happiness, or that joy will mean something that you have in your mind. You know, I will get joy if I do X, Y, and Z, and that's not what it is. The truth is that joy can and often does coexist with negative feelings, or the feelings we refer to as negative. So in the Jewish tradition, for instance, praise and lament are often sang or recited together. The theology of joy is a liberatory theology because if the theology of joy is a way to experience interdependence, when we experience joy, we feel more connected to the world, don't we? It also means that everyone should be able to experience joy in their life. Everyone, no one excluded. And not because they did something, but because they simply are. So individual joy exists as the greater purpose of communal joy, this gift of the Spirit. And so the theology of joy speaks to the power of this communal joy. And so when we find joy, what do we do? When do we find joy? Like Psalm 30 says, we cannot really find joy until we turn our dirge into a dance. I like that expression. It's very poetic. And so sometimes we have to look at our sorrow to experience joy, look at how we resist together in the difficult moments to experience joy. Affirming that we can find joy and that joy is sacred and connects us. And I mean, you know this. In the joys and concerns, you say that a joy shared is a joy multiplied, magnified, like an echo. It is the echo of a protest song. It is the battle cry of a community of people who want joy for themselves and for everyone else. And it is the sound of resistance. May be so. Please rise in body or spirit and join in the closing hymn, number 410, Surprised by Joy. In keeping with the idea of lamentation into praise and finding joy, I want to close with a poem by Reverend Sean Parker Dennison entitled Today, from his collection called Breaking and Blessing, which is lovely. Today has been a day, like all days, it seems, in which I let people down and did not love as fully as I always hope. And today I have been sad because always there are the unexpected and unpredictable consequences of what I do and do not know. And yet the taste of this perfectly ripe pear on my tongue reminds me of heaven and gifts beyond measure. Like sweetness and sunset again tomorrow. You may be seated for the postlude.